Hey gang, Chris here with Family Magic Weekly. Theme parks are not museums. At least that's what I think about it. Which brings up the topic that I wanted to discuss here today. If you follow theme parks, if you follow amusements, all those sorts of things, this always seems to come up, whether people want to explicitly address it as a topic or it's something that sort of lies under the surface when people are discussing news when it comes to theme parks, particularly Disney World. The last time I sort of saw this thing come up pretty intensely was around the time that they announced that they were closing Maelstrom at the Norway Pavilion in Epcot and repurposing the attraction to feature the movie Frozen. You might have thought that they announced that they were closing the actual country of Norway. The outrage was so high for this, rather than actually making a change to a amusement park representation of the country. People, I don't mean to make fun of that. People love their attractions. People are very passionate about Disney. People are very passionate about the theme parks that they love. That being said, where is the line to be drawn with that? When does a theme park stop becoming a place of innovation and start to become a museum? Theme parks shouldn't be a museum. In my opinion, I have a great reverence for museums. I love all the retro aspects of Walt Disney World. I love the history of Walt Disney World. I love the history of Disneyland. I enjoy reading about the history of all sorts of different theme parks, regardless of whether they're Disney or not. That being said, a museum is a different experience than what a theme park should be. You go to a theme park for not necessarily to learn. You go to have fun. You go to escape. If you're constantly put in a position where you're dealing with out-of-date attractions, things that you really need to have in a historical perspective in order to enjoy completely, you're not really getting the benefit of a theme park. Disney and its history is actually in some ways a handicap to its ability to innovate and move forward. Universal doesn't seem to have those same hang-ups. Universal's a younger idea as a theme park, particularly in Orlando, but there still were some attractions that had some sort of historic reverence in the eyes of fans. The Jaws attraction, Back to the Future, things like this. However, there didn't seem to be the uproar. Maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention at the time, which is possible, but there just didn't seem to be this uproar for the changeover that you've seen at Universal Parks. It seems Disney has to deal with a lot more of that baggage from its fan base when it's looking to change things. I'm actually, in some ways, surprised there hasn't been more backlash with Disneyland, with the creation of the Star Wars area. They are literally changing the structure, Walt's structure of a theme park, to add the Star Wars land into Disneyland. I like the way it looks. I think it's going to be an even more dynamic and impressive park than it already is when it's completed. But if you really think it's really changed that sort of pinwheel design of the park in some ways. It's sort of added another layer onto it, which I'm really in some ways very surprised that there's not more backlash against that. I guess people really want their Star Wars. And yet on the other side of that, you have people very upset that Disney changed that Maelstrom ride. That's not to say that every change Disney tries to make isn't, greeted with, an open mind with fans. When they made the changes to the hub in Disneyland or Disney World in front of the castle in the last couple years, I think that's really changed the look of that area. I think people really, though, appreciate the changes that were made, and they see that the positives that were in the new design that they have for that area. So that being said, I think it's important that we remember the history of Disney World as a fan. It's always important to know where you've been and understand, there's all these little corners and nooks and crannies in the parks, all these little all these little references back to the way the park once was. I've mentioned them before. I recommend checking out the Retro Walt Disney World podcast if that's the sort of thing that you enjoy. I believe you could tell they're a group of guys that really prefer the way the parks once were. This sort of idea of a vacation kingdom from the 1970s and 80s. However, they really do a good job of presenting that and not sounding like curmudgeons about it. I think I think they go about it a really great way. You can tell they have, they have certain opinions about, DVC and things like that, that may not be in line with, the Disney corporate idea at this point. However, they stay very positive about it. I think it's important for people to keep an open mind and stay positive about changes in the parks, and don't get so hung up on keeping everything exactly the way it was. It's important to embrace change and embrace new ideas and exciting attractions coming to the parks, and keeping an open mind about that. I really, this is not the end opinion on this. I really want to know what other people think. How do you make that balance? Where do you draw that line? What is a change that you think they've made that they were out of line in making, or what changes do you think they need to make? What sort of things are they holding on to that they really need to let go of, and keep an open mind about changing that they might not be looking at? Definitely, tweet at us, leave us some comments, give us what your ideas are on this topic. Again, we're working on this room. Thanks again for buying the table, whoever you are. I don't think you watch our videos, but as you know, the table's gone. My next commentary, I'm thinking I'm going to do something discussing the holidays in the parks. If you have an idea for a commentary or something you want to see me bloviate about related to Disney or traveling to Disney, let me know. We got a new video coming out this week in regards to planning your trip, so don't forget that. Amanda's got a new craft video in the pipes coming out too. Thanks for watching, and be careful.